Yes, we are live. Hi.
Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mountain View School in New Jersey and to Dick Scobie Elementary School in Washington. We're so happy to have you, as well as our general audience viewing into this awesome Google Hangout with us here today. I wanted to just introduce WCS to you. The Wildlife Conservation Society mission is to protect wildlife and wild places worldwide through science, conservation action, education, and inspiring people to protect nature. And we do this through wonderful experiences like this here at the Marine Basin Marina in South Brooklyn. Right now, we're going to talk about our American Eel Project through the New York Aquarium and what that means for public participation in citizen science and how that can help researchers understand more about the biodiversity, the marine biodiversity in our environment. Today, you're going to hear from Melissa Karp, who is an educator at the New York Aquarium today. And just before we get into that, I wanted to just mention that with this Google Hangout, we will be streaming live with those two schools. And if, for our general audience, if you'd like to submit questions, please do so using the Q&A app. And you can also use the hashtag WCSEelsHOA. All right, without further ado, let's join me in welcoming Melissa Karp.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and being here with us. And also thanks to our awesome volunteers here who are helping to engage in this project. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you and the volunteers are doing here today?
Sure. We're out here every week between March and the kind of middle of June. And what they're doing right now, they're pulling up, eventually they're going to be pulling up an eel mop. And an eel mop is a human-made habitat. It's somewhere that we may find eels coming. Sometimes we don't find them, but we check them every week. And the reason we're checking for eels is because they're a fish that's the population has been in decline over many areas. Okay. And so it's a fish that scientists are concerned about. So we're part of a project that is looking for the presence of these eels. So every week they come out here, they check the mops, and they're also doing water quality testing that you may see going on right here. And besides being worried about the decline, it's an amazing fish. Most fish are either freshwater fish or saltwater fish, and this animal actually starts out its life in saltwater in the Sargasso Sea. It has this amazing journey during which its body changes, and many of them end up going to freshwater for most of their lives before they travel back down to the Sargasso Sea to spawn. So it's a really interesting fish, and one that scientists are trying to learn more about.
Okay, great. Well, do we have a question from Mount View School in New Jersey?
Yes, we actually have one right now. Come on, Isabel.
Great.
Why do scientists think climate change is affecting the eels?
That's a great question. Right now, I don't know that there's enough data to say that it's definitely affecting, but it's something that scientists are concerned about, just as they are with many species that may be affected. One of the things that they've noticed with climate changing is that it can affect currents in the ocean. And one thing that really helps these animals when they're so tiny come up to the shores of North and South America is currents. So they're tiny, they're not strong swimmers, they're going to be moved along with the currents. So if those currents change, that could definitely impact the American eel.
That's an excellent question. Thank you. So at this point, we are going to take a look at what our student volunteers have pulled up from their mop.
I think they're going to pull up the mop now. Are there any other questions?
Yes. Yes, we have one from Dick Scobie.
Oh.
We're good at it?
Students coming. Okay.
How many different types of eels are there?
Oh, that's a great question. There are hundreds of kinds of eels, but as far as eels that have this amazing life cycle of going from salt to either brackish or freshwater and then back into saltwater to spawn, there are 3 different kinds. There's the American eel, Japanese eel, and the European eel. Excellent questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, everyone, I'm sorry. They're pulling up the mop now. You can see that is the, I'm going to move out of the way.
The mop acts as an artificial habitat in this marina, and so it allows a lot of different species to find a temporary place to rest, and we're able to draw up that mop very carefully and shake out its contents in the salt water so that we are able to see what has decided to use this temporary habitat as the home.
Okay, if you can see, Alex is right now shaking out the mop, and this mop does not trap the animals that are in it. They can come and go, which is one reason why there may have been eels there. There may not be, but the animals are free to come and go. So they're going to do some rigorous shaking and see what comes out, and then we're going to start straining through to see. No matter what we find, we're going to document it. Whether it's an eel or another kind of animal, we definitely want to know what's living in these waters. And what we found is that they're rich waters. We get a lot of biodiversity. We find lots of different species. And that also changes depending on the season. Here now you can see Nassim is gently going through to see if we've left any creatures in. When he's done with that, they're going to gently put the mop back into the water. Perfect.
They're gonna show you.
Everyone, if you want to come a little closer so the students can see as you're going through, as you're straining through, sure, you can bring it on up here while you're straining through it. So if we find anything, the students will get an opportunity to see that.
To see what pops out.
So Melissa, tell us some of the things you have found in the past through this process.
Okay. Great. They're looking. We often find small invertebrates, both isopods and amphipods. A few times, which I got very excited about, we have found pipefish, which are seahorse relatives. We also find a variety of different fish. And we often find glass shrimp and occasionally skeleton shrimp, which are also just one of my favorites.
And what do you do once you found your little critters?
Oh, once we look, we definitely we document what we found. We keep records of everything that we find and the numbers that we find, and after that, they are gently released back into the water.
And why are you recording all of this biodiversity?
We're really interested in knowing what's living here. I know sometimes people think waters around New York are not going to be clean, and that it's such a huge city. There are millions and millions of people here, and people feel that there really can't be anything surviving in these waters. And we're so happy to say that there is incredible biodiversity, and we really want to know about that and share that information. Great. It's also just nice, I think, for New Yorkers and for people along the coastal areas to know that they really do have great neighbors. We have amazing animals that live right in our waters.
Now, through this process, we're not going to be able to survey everything that's out there in this water. So it seems like this research is really targeted for certain observations.
Yes, I mean, right now the main project is really looking for glass eels, which is a juvenile stage of the American eel.
Why target glass eels in particular as opposed to their other stages?
As they've traveled up along the currents and they get here, the glass eel stage is one that we find here. We will also sometimes find adult eels in brackish water, and occasionally we find elvers, which is the next stage when they're a little more mature and start getting their darker coloration.
Is this the only mop that you have here at the Marine Basin Marina?
We actually have 3 mops here and 2 mops at another location. So every week we're checking 5 mops.
Looks like we found
3,
something.
4, wow, yeah. Okay, wait. One's still in the bucket there. Let's get that little guy. Right there.
Oh, got a shrimp.
Beautiful. Let's get them.
There might be a couple more in the.
Yeah, a couple more at the bottom. Let's get them into the water.
Got a glass shrimp?
Yeah, we found some glass shrimp, and that is pretty typical for this time of year. Occasionally, we're finding eels in this weather, in this temperature. We are definitely finding that glass shrimp are very frequent found at this time of year. I was wondering as we were getting closer and closer to the bottom of the bucket if we would have any, and I would have been surprised if there weren't any of them.
Could we bring the bucket a little bit closer
Yeah.
to the
Can you eat glass shrimps?
Right.
I have not heard of people eating them, but from what I've learned from talking to lots of different people, it seems people eat almost anything. But I have not specifically heard of people eating them.
My hands are
Shrimp or, people like throw shrimp on the barbie. That remains fairly small.
Are they swimming?
Yeah, they're pretty swift.
That's a glass shrimp.
Yep. Look, it's transparent. You can see right through it.
That's gross. That's gross.
excellent.
Somebody said they're cute.
They are.
They're ugly. They're idiots.
You can see the 2 compound eyes and their antenna, and you can see all their organs right up here behind the eyes. And then the rest of the body is all muscle and tail.
Somebody asked.
Oh, I did. What do they eat?
Students from Mountain View School or Dick Scobie School, do you have any other questions you would like to ask at this time?
Why are there different names for the same?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Why are there different names for the same eel?
Oh, that's a great question. The eel looks so different at different stages of its life that it is actually given, the stages of the development are given different names. It's interesting, when people used to find them at different stages, they actually thought they were different kinds of fish. And then people found out that it's the same fish, but just looking so different, depending on what stage of its life it's in.
You know animals that have different stages, right? What happens when a butterfly lays an egg? It's called the egg stage, right? And then you go into the caterpillar stage, then eventually the pupa, and then eventually the adult butterfly. So even insects have different stages. In the ocean, there are many animals that have different stages, and they get different names. Crabs don't always look like crabs when they're first born, so crabs have different stages in their life cycle as well. And as they grow up, they change. So many animals look different from the adults, and that goes for the eels as well.
All right, we have a question from Mountain View.
Okay, great. Sorry, we're all kind of trying not to fall off the dock as you're asking. Go ahead.
American eel would we find in New Jersey?
Okay. On the shores of New Jersey, you would find the American eel, Anguilla rostrata, the same one we're finding here in Brooklyn, New York. It would be the same eel. Yeah, in coastal regions and going up rivers. Are there any other questions?
Taxation.
Okay, everyone. Right now, they're pulling up the second. Oh, they're pulling up the second mop that we have at this site, and they're doing that rigorous shaking. And then they're going to start picking through that one. Does anyone have any other questions?
What is the largest American eel found?
That is interesting. I have to say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know if there are I know with some fish there are competitions to see who gets the largest one. As far as the American eel, females usually get to be about 4 feet, and the males are a little bit smaller. But I don't know the exact size of the biggest one ever found.
So Melissa, can you tell us a little bit about how this project here in Brooklyn connects with the bigger American Eel Project?
Sure. Everyone, because the eel is a fish that people are worried about because of declining numbers, we really, we're working with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation to check for populations, to check what the populations are. And we are one site. There are many sites. You can go to the DEC website. There are many sites up and down the Hudson River and its tributaries where volunteers, basically citizen science volunteers, are going out, school groups are going out and counting eels, you know, catching and counting eels and releasing. And there are even some projects where they're doing things. They have built eel ladders to help eels make their way upriver. Because sometimes with human interaction with habitats, if people build a dam, things like that can make it harder for the eels, if not impossible for eels, to get to where they spend much of their lives. So there are whole lots of ways that people are interacting and really trying to collect data and also help these animals.
So what are some of the conservation issues with eel? Why study them?
Oh, I think they're amazing to study just because of the life cycle. I think they're an incredible fish. I know some people look at them and go, eh, they're not that interesting. I think they're fascinating fish. They're also, I mean, they're worth studying also because of the decline that's going on. Oh, more glass shrimp. Some of the issues scientists feel they're facing, just like other animals are facing problems with pollution. As I mentioned, habitat change, and also overfishing. This is an animal that is eaten in different countries around the world, and there's a worry that it may be being consumed faster than it can reproduce.
Let's take a look at this last part of the bucket and see if we found any additional animals.
We found another species called an amphipod, which is another type of crustacean that lives in the ocean. Some people call them beach hoppers. But these are little tiny crustaceans, a very important food source for many fish, including seahorses and pipefish. They love these things. They love little crustaceans like this. You see it?
Wait,
If you were a seahorse, you'd love it.
it's gross, gross. Oh, is that a seahorse?
No.
No, but this is something that seahorses would eat.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the food for some seahorses.
What is it?
We do have seahorses and pipefish that live in these waters, and that mop actually makes a good little mini habitat for them because they can wrap their bodies around it. They think it's seaweed. So those animals would venture into those mops as well. I'm going to put them back in the water.
And that gentleman that was speaking with you, that was Bob Cummings.
I'm Bob.
He is our senior instructor at the New York Aquarium. One last question for you,
Sure.
Melissa and Bob. What can we do? What can everyday people like us, what can we do to help the eels or any other marine marine animal?
Well, I think it's great that people have shown interest. I want to thank people for being here and showing interest. I think by getting educated about them and educating your friends, educating your family is a great thing to do. And also, when it comes to seafood, make informed choices. You know, if you find out that an animal is struggling in the wild, pick something else off the menu. So those are things you can do. And also just caring about our waterways, caring about both fresh and salt water. You can see that these are animals that depend on both, right? They're both different habitats are so important in their life cycle. So really not polluting and being careful of where we live and also where they live is just a great thing you can do. And there are also citizen science projects around for this and other species where you can get involved if you'd like to do more things that are hands-on and learn more about them. So all of those things are things that you can do that can help these animals.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Glenn Scobie? Did you have a question?
Do the eels eat different things at the different stages?
Do the eels eat different things at different stages?
They do. When they start out, they're tiny. They're tiny. I can't tell you. Like last week, some were a little bigger than a toothpick. They're just very, very small and very, very clear. So they're not going to eat larger animals. They're going to be eating planktonic animals. When they get bigger, they can eat other things. But when they're small, they're really limited to plankton. Are there any other questions? Oh.
Yes, one last one from Mountain View.
Okay, Mountain View, hit us.
Do only Asian countries eat eel, or is it popular in America as well?
Eating eels is very popular in Asian countries, but eels are also consumed in American restaurants also. Great questions, everyone.
Yeah, as adults, actually, that's a very popular food in some cultures.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Melissa Karp and Bob Cummings, for working with us today. Thank you to the project volunteers for your work today. They're going to keep on surveying mops both here and at another site their duty to conservation. You can view the recorded session of the WCS on the WCS Google Plus page, and go ahead and find citizen science projects in your neighborhood, or be a part of a beach cleanup. We can all do one little step to help improve ocean health, and which also helps improve human health, since we're all very intimately connected to the water. And recognizing that we live in a maritime environment. New York City is surrounded by water, so you have an opportunity pretty much anywhere you go to be connected to the water. So from the New York Aquarium to you, let's get out there and be a part of the water.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.